In 2009, a resident of the Toba Aquarium in Japan did something that defied every law of biology we understand. He ate a meal. It was a standard horse mackerel. Nothing special. No. One finished the fish, retreated to his corner of the tank, and settled into the sand. The keepers expected him to be hungry again in a few days. Maybe a week, but a week passed. Then a month. Then a year. The keepers tried everything. They waved fresh squid in his face. They offered premium sashimi. They practically begged him to take a single bite. But no, one treated the food like it didn't exist. He didn't just lose his appetite. He went on a hunger strike that lasted 1,758 days. That is nearly 5 years, without a single calorie. If you or I tried this, we'd be dead in a month. If a blue whale tried this, it would starve in a season. Yet, after 1,700 days of bed rotting at the bottom of a glass tank, no, one wasn't just alive. He was fine. How is it possible for a creature the size of a football to live off 0 calories for half a decade? Why are these animals so horrendously resilient that they can survive the crushing pressure of the abyss and the vacuum of the surface? Today, we're looking at the ultimate glitch in the matrix of evolution, the creature that broke thermodynamics, the giant isopod. To understand why these things are so hard to kill, we first have to understand what they actually are. And the answer is they're bugs. Well, sort of. If you go into your backyard and poke one of these, it rolls up into a ball. That's a pill bug. Scientifically, it's an isopod. Now look at this. This is Bathynomus giganteus. Genetically, they are essentially the same design. They share the same phylum, subphylum, class, and order. The only real difference is that the one on the right is 60,000 times heavier and lives in a world of eternal darkness. But here's the mystery. If you stop feeding that garden pill bug, it's going to dry out and die in about 8 weeks. It's small, it's fragile, and it's bound by the rules of eat or die. So why did the ocean version decide to become an indestructible tank? Why did evolution take a harmless garden bug and turn it into a creature that can survive 5 years of starvation and the pressure of 2 miles of overhead water? The answer starts with a fundamental law of the universe, and how the giant isopod found a way to cheat it. In the world above, size is a curse. A blue whale needs to eat millions of calories a day just to keep its heart beating. A semi-truck needs more gas than a moped. This is the square-cube law mixed with basic thermodynamics. The bigger you are, the more fuel you need to exist. Logically, an animal this large should starve to death in a few months at most. But the deep sea is a desert. Food doesn't grow on trees down there. Food is the tree usually in the form of a dead whale falling from the surface. These whale falls are the lotteries of the abyss, but they are rare. You might wait years for one to land in your neighborhood. Imagine you're in a room with no food. You don't know when the door will open. It might be tomorrow. It might be 2031. If you're a human, your body is a hot engine. Even while you sleep, you're burning calories to keep your temperature at 98.6 degrees. You're wasting energy just to stay warm. The isopod is an ectotherm. Its body temperature is whatever the water is, which, at 2,000 meters down, is barely above freezing. It wastes 0 energy on heating, but it goes deeper than that. Its metabolism is so absurdly slow that it borders on suspended animation. Its cells are doing the absolute bare minimum required to qualify as alive. It isn't just resting. It is essentially bed rotting in a state of permanent Zen-like stagnation. But even a slow engine needs some gas. So how did no one survive 1,758 days? This is their second trick. When a food source finally does drop like that whale carcass, the giant isopod doesn't just eat until it's full. It eats until it is physically disabled. They have been observed gorging themselves so hard that their rigid exoskeleton actually restricts them from moving. Their legs can no longer lift their bellies off the seafloor. They become, quite literally, mobile meat-filled rocks. They pack this food into massive lipid reserves in their digestive gland, or hepatopancreas. Think of these as biological battery packs. They are so energy-dense that the isopod can slowly sip on them for years. It's the same logic as a stranded person having an advantage if they have more body fat, but taken to a horrific, alien extreme. This isn't just a theory. We know this because of the autopsy of No. 1. When No. 1 finally passed away in 2014, scientists expected to find a hollow shell. They thought he had finally run out of juice. The results were shocking. He didn't die of starvation. His body wasn't empty. He still had fat reserves left. He seemingly died of old age or the stress of captivity. He was still running off the battery power of a meal he ate while Barack Obama was in his first year of presidency. He could have gone longer. But the hunger isn't the only thing that makes them indestructible. There's the surface problem. For almost any other creature from the abyss, being dragged to the surface is a literal death sentence. You've seen the blobfish. In its natural habitat, it looks like a normal fish. At the surface, it looks like a melted dessert. If you bring a deep-sea rockfish up too fast, its eyes pop out and its stomach is forced out of its mouth. This happens because of gas. Most fish have swim bladders, gas-filled sacs they use to float. As pressure drops, that gas expands rapidly. It's the same physics that makes a soda can explode if you shake it and open it. So why can you pull a giant isopod up from 2,000 meters and put it in a touch tank at a museum without it exploding? Because the isopod is a benthic roamer. It doesn't swim. It walks. Because it doesn't need to float. It has no swim bladder. No gas sacs means no expanding gas. No expanding gas means no exploding bug. But there's more. Their exoskeleton is a masterpiece of biological engineering. It's arranged in overlapping, segmented plates. This armor is designed to withstand the weight of 2.5 kilometers of water, which is roughly the equivalent of having an elephant stand on your thumb. Because this armor is so rigid and isn't inflated by internal pressure, it holds its shape perfectly at sea level. It's like a medieval suit of armor. It works just as well in a vacuum as it does under a mountain of water. They don't starve, and they don't explode. So, what does kill them? Coming up, we explore the embarrassing way these indestructible tanks accidentally kill each other, the soft shell nightmare of their growth cycle, and the one thing, the kryptonite, that kills them almost instantly. While they are immune to the crushing depths and the vacuum of the surface, giant isopods aren't exactly the special ops of the ocean. In fact, they aren't very smart. Thinking requires neurons, and neurons require energy, something they'd rather save for, well, nothing. This lack of brain power leads to their most embarrassing cause of death: accidental cannibalism. When a large food source finally drops, the isopods go into a sensory overload. They don't have great vision in the abyss. There's nothing to see anyway. They rely on chemoreceptors to smell meat. In the chaos of a feeding frenzy, they often mistake each other for the meal. They don't have a friend or foe identification system. They just bite whatever feels like protein. Luckily, because their armor is so thick, these accidental munches usually just result in a very confused isopod rather than a dead one. But it highlights a weird truth. The only thing tough enough to consistently annoy a giant isopod is another giant isopod. But being a biological tank comes with a massive catch. Your armor doesn't grow with you. To get bigger, you have to leave your fortress. In the world of biology, this is called molting. For a garden pill bug, it's a minor inconvenience. For a giant isopod, it is a life or death crisis. Molting takes a massive amount of energy, the one thing these creatures hate spending. And when the old shell comes off, they are left soft, squishy, and completely defenseless. To a deep-sea shark or an octopus, a molting isopod is essentially a soft-shell crab special at a 5-star seafood buffet. So the isopod evolved a genius strategy that looks, well, a little ridiculous. They don't molt all at once. They do it in halves. First, they shed the back half of their armor. They wait days or even weeks for that new shell to harden while the front half remains armored. Once the pants are ready, they shed the shirt. By molting in stages, they ensure they always have at least 50% of their defensive stats active. It's a slow, awkward process, but when you're planning on living for decades, what's the rush? This brings us to the big question. Why bother? Why did this specific lineage of bugs decide to become giants while their cousins stayed the size of a fingernail? In the deep sea, being big isn't just about ego, it's about survival. It's called deep sea gigantism. First, there's the storage factor. If a whale falls once every 3 years, you want to be able to carry as much of it as possible. A tiny pill bug can only hold a crumb. A giant isopod can carry a battery pack of fat that lasts for 1,800 days. Second, there's the travel factor. If a meal lands 5 miles away, a tiny isopod would burn more calories walking to the food than the food would actually provide. It would die of exhaustion halfway there. But a giant isopod? It has massive strides. It can cross the barren desert of the seafloor, claim its prize, and then go back to sleep. Functionally, the isopod build shouldn't work at this size. Their simple gill systems and flattened bodies are designed for small-scale living. Giant isopods are essentially the monster trucks of the crustacean world. They shouldn't exist, yet they're the only ones that successfully pushed the limits of their own biology. So we have a creature that can survive being crushed by the ocean, being starved for years, and being hauled into the alien atmosphere of the surface. Is there anything that can stop them? Yes, and it's something incredibly simple. Giant isopods are fine-tuned for the freezing void. Their enzymes, their metabolism, their very cells are built to operate at near-freezing temperatures. If you put a giant isopod in a lukewarm bath, it doesn't just get uncomfortable, it dies. Sudden warmth causes a metabolic overload. Their oxygen demand spikes. Their internal chemistry misfires, and their system essentially overheats and crashes. For all their armor and resilience, they are prisoners of the cold. As our oceans warm, these indestructible tanks are finding their only true weakness exposed. No, one wasn't a hero, and he wasn't a monster. He was just a scavenger from a world we will never truly understand. When he died in 2014, he became a global sensation. Not because of how he lived, but because of how he refused to participate in the most basic requirement of life, consumption. He proved that life doesn't always have to be a frantic race for the next meal. Sometimes the best way to survive is to simply wait, to slow down until the rest of the world stops mattering. No, one survived the trip from the abyss. He survived the lights of the cameras and the staring eyes of millions. And in the end, he went out on his own terms, still full from a meal he ate 5 years prior. The giant isopod is a reminder that the deep sea doesn't play by our rules. It doesn't care about our thermodynamics. It only cares about who can last the longest in the dark. Thank you for watching. If you love this deep dive into nature's most resilient bugs, make sure to subscribe to Animal Lover Planet. We're on a mission to explore every corner of this wild world, from the backyard to the abyss.